Got it done about 3 years ago.
And that makes sense because you were like 8 years old learning how to ride bikes back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. I've always been obsessed with old cars, trucks, and motorcycles.
Fair enough. So if we go back to like the post college, post some stuff happened, then you're doing some work stuff. Like what else is going on in your life? How do you start getting into more of this like bike culture? What else is going on for you?
Well, and throughout that time, I raced motocross and stuff. And then once I,
Hold on, you may run that back. Moto. My girlfriend was a moto hoe.
no joke. Okay,
No, straight
well,
up. Back in the day, that's one of her like. She just said, "Hold up!" Like she got excited. You gotta understand. This is her shit. I'm like, the fuck is a moto hoe? She's like a hoe for the motocross guys. Now y'all know. So she would, because in the country where she's from in Quebec, that shit's some real. So she would go fuck the
okay.
motocross guys back in the day. Yo, she's put this on blast. It's not a secret. It's all
It's
over
not
in
a
the.
secret.
It's
Okay.
on wax. She said it. I'm allowed to say this.
So you got the blessing, so we're in the clear now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't something I did. I never was a professional at it, so we're all good here, man. Don't cut me off the screen.
Nah, we good. She's
Now
fine.
I did it for a few years. I mean, just as like a hobby. Because I mean, I always rode motorcycles, did desert races, enduros, kind of out in the country. And I wanted to say, okay, I want to see if I can. I mean, I enjoy jumping it too, so I wanted to do some motocross, and I did that for a couple of years. The I was a little bit younger than my competition because I was kind of a bigger kid back then. So I rode a 125. I raced a 125. I was in the 250s, the two strokes back then, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm 12, 13 years old and racing against 26-year-old men. So it's kind of they've been doing it a little bit longer. But I mean, I did. I got me one plaque for motocross. One out of my whole life. I got one top five finish, and then also I fought for 10 years. Fought MMA for 10 years, and then
What?
but the
We
only time
are,
that I've
we
been
are expecting
the only
that.
time I was knocked unconscious was on a motocross track. I was completely unconscious for about 3 or 4 minutes.
So I know what motocross is kind of because I went to a monster truck thing that had guys doing what I think is motocross there. I don't fuck it. What's motocross for the people that don't fully know what motocross is?
Well, I mean, basically, they take the faster dirt bikes and they tune them up, and then you have arena cross and you have motocross. Basically, a track setup has some big jumps. It has little small bumps that maybe 20, 30, 10, 20, 30 in a row. They call a whoop section. There may be a foot off the ground, but your bike you have to kind of get that front tire up and ride them through. You have a lot of technical, real tight hairpin turns where you go like that, turn around, and then you have some big jumps where sometimes you're jumping two or three big mountains and jumping 60 to 100 foot through the air.
Yeah, serious.
Different things. So you basically line up in a long gate in a line, sometimes 30 different bikes. You stand there, you sit there and get ready to gear it down, and then they drop the gate. And as soon as they drop the gate, everyone just 0 to 60 miles an hour sometimes in a pack this tight.
Bro, how are you not terrified? Or I guess you live for this shit.
Well, the yes and no. The weird thing, I mean, every time before I walked into the cage to fight, anytime I got stepped on the mat to do for wrestling or a Brazilian jiu-jitsu competition or anything of the sort, and racing especially, my heart would pound. I mean, just like I get the same, and I think that's why I love performing and doing music as well, because I get that same feeling I used to get before I go fight or
Mm.
before I race. Get up there, and even if it's only 20, 30 people in the crowd, it's kind of like, well, these people are sitting there and everyone's watching you. You got to do your thing. You got to entertain, and I mean, it's kind of showing what you've been working on. Same
Yeah.
thing with the races. I get real nervous. I'd get up there and my heart would pound and pound until get into it. Step into the cage. I get excited, but and you got I think the biggest crowd I ever fought in front of maybe 1,500 people. You walk out to that song, the music's blaring. You're walking out there, you're excited, but then so you get up there, you take everything off, talk to your coaches, get in the cage, and it's just you. Everyone's staring at you. Yeah, you could die, or who knows what's going to happen. Man, my heart would always pound. I'd feel like I got to go run to the restroom, like sit there and yeah, it's really nervous energy, but it was a good feeling though. It was really exciting.
So yeah,
So
you're
and then once you
definitely a
get
thrill
going,
seeker.
you get punched in the face or you get hit. It's like okay, this is what we do every day in practice. It's fun. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Same
All
thing with
right.
the races.
So I have the one more question about the races because the one time I saw motocross, they did loop-de-loops in the air. Did you ever do a loop-de-loop in the air?
Oh no, I didn't do stunt shows and things like that. Yeah, this was just all on the track. There's a lot of they have I think motocross freestyle,
Mm.
Moto X freestyle. They do tricks and things, but no, I never was a trick jumper. I wasn't even that good at the jumps, just good enough to make it around the track and compete.
So how do you get into MMA? That feels like a hugely interesting thing.
Well, it kind of
I guess you
weird
have the
enough.
wrestling background, so you're already kind of involved in some level of competitiveness.
Yeah, that's how it all started. Because even though I only did wrestling for 2 years, so it was almost like I was still searching for something else. Like I was just getting started. I was like, hey, I'm really good at this. Like now, what do? I'm out of high school. I mean, I'm not good enough to go wrestle for a Division I college or anything. So, what do I do?
So how do
So I
you?
got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay, so you start
I
training.
got into. They had a guy. Luckily, and weird roundabout and stuff all ties together too. Where whenever I was 18, getting out of high school, I decided, okay, I'm gonna do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm gonna go check it out. It's kind of similar to wrestling. Just you can choke people out and break people's legs and arms instead on top of wrestling. So I'm like, cool, let's go see. I mean, it's the closest thing I can do to actual wrestling, and so I'm gonna see if I like it. And then I did that, and then I started excelling. My wrestling helped me out a lot in that because I mean, a lot of people in jiu-jitsu they were good at jiu-jitsu, but they've never wrestled before. So you have more of that. It's more of an explosive kind of aggressive culture in wrestling than it is in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is more patient, technical. Wrestling's more. I'm gonna stay in your face and I'm gonna make you uncomfortable.
Mm.
So blending those two together, I think it's a good mesh. But it started there, and then we had a couple guys that gym I went to. The guy that owned it, he's our jiu-jitsu instructor. He was a state trooper and a judge in Lee County. Now he's a judge 20 years later. Yeah, he got me into it. He was really really good. His brother-in-law was a guy named Travis Luter who fought. You watch UFC or MMA or anything at all?
I do not, but somebody in the chat does, so you should definitely run this.
Okay, well, this is an interesting story for anyone that does. Um, they've watched it for a while and understand it. There's a guy named Anderson Silva who a lot of people consider one of the best mixed martial artists ever to fight. He's from Brazil, a real good Muay Thai kickboxer. But the guy that trained me the first time, his brother-in-law's name was Travis Luter, and he won one of the first, might have been the first or one of the first Ultimate Fighter series. They had basically a competition to you fight your way up to this tournament to get into the UFC. So if you win the show, you get to fight the champion in that weight class. And Anderson Silva was the middleweight champion. Basically, no one could touch him. He was just destroying everyone at the time. And then my instructor, his brother-in-law, ended up winning the show and fought Anderson Silva. And he actually, I mean, he lost the fight, and he was a little bit overweight, so it wouldn't have mattered anyways because he came in overweight. But yeah, he fought Anderson Silva, and he actually gave him a run for his money because this guy's Travis Luter's a real distinguished black belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's competed all over the world, won world titles in jiu-jitsu.
So Lanson, who brought it up or who knows about this, says he's heard of Travis.
Okay, well, yeah. Travis Luter, I think I know he's won. I think IBJJF nationals over there, across seas and whatnot. He's a really good practitioner. If you're anywhere around jiu-jitsu, then yeah, you'll know who Travis Luter is, and I'm sure anyone that really follows the UFC and MMA in general probably heard of him as well. But it's kind of a neat thing for a small town. He owns 2 gyms in Fort Worth. Travis Luter does right now. He still runs them actively, but it's kind of neat because I got into it that way because they're promoting the show. They have the gym, and then they're also promoting their own shows too with the fights called Eagle Fight Productions. And so they have some fights, and they say, hey, well, you wrestled and things. You wrestled and you do well here in the classes in jiu-jitsu. Would you mind sparring with the guys a little bit to help them get ready for their fights? So yeah, okay, that's cool. I mean, I box with my friends and stuff, so I put the gloves on and start boxing. And then some of the guys are getting ready for the fight. I'm in there laying into him and hit one of the guys and drop him. And put him on his back. And I said, "Have you ever thought about fighting?" I said, because you got that raw, aggressive nature, and you just go forward. Like you got a hard edge, you just go forward, and you're athletic. So why don't you try about? Why don't you think about fighting? I said, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy fighting, but I don't really never thought about fighting MMA. I just wanted to wrestle. So and I got into that and ended up fighting for a while. I trained for about 10 years. I think I fought actively for maybe 6 years. It's been a little while since I've got back into it, but
you were like
I've actually
fighting like proper MMAs and stuff. Like how does that work? Like what was your name fighting with the MMA?
It was a name that was given to me because these people right here, that works MMA in Hobbs, New Mexico, they Jimmy Jones, his brother-in-law Travis Luter, was the one that he kind of inspired me because I seen his jiu-jitsu guy and he got into it. But the first time I fought legit MMA, like in a cage, was at the Lee County Event Center in Hobbs. Over 1,000 people there. It was a really nice production. This was in 2009. We have a casino in town. We went and weighed in at the casinos and fought there at the event center the next day. But to make it even more nerve-wracking, I go out there and fighting in front of my hometown. And then I find out, and Jimmy's brother-in-law, Travis Luter's there, and he's there in our locker room when we're getting ready to warm up. So he's sitting there hanging out with us, getting ready and talking to us and stuff. So it was pretty neat. Luckily I won and knocked the guy out about 20 seconds into the second round. So I got to take a deep breath, and it was a great feeling being there. And then I got to meet him, do that, and then a few years later, I got to meet Anderson Silva. So the first gloves I ever fought in, I have signed by Travis Luter and Anderson Silva. And I like to think that is a weird tidbit because I don't know if anyone else in the country could ever say they fought the first time they ever fought and they got their gloves signed by both people fighting for a UFC championship, especially that exact one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. No, for real though. Whenever like people have those like quirky little unique moments, they're like special. And there is somebody out there who's way more excited than I understand. Cause bro, I'm following it at a very top level enough to understand the significance. But somebody out there is gonna be like, bro, that's some shit that I fucking want to eat up. And that's kind of why I like doing this, cause like we end up just getting exposed to so much just regular passion shit. And then Lytle won Ultimate Fighter 4 is what I'm hearing. And
okay, yeah, I wasn't sure which one it was. I knew it was one of the first few, but I wasn't sure at that time because whenever I first got into it, I really wasn't a big like UFC fan. Like I watched the old Matt Hughes and the Hoist Gracie days when he first started, but I didn't follow it a lot until I actually started fighting. And then we're watching every one, and we're actually gotten the chance to train with a couple of these guys. One of my buddies, he's one of the instructors for. We've actually got to meet Derek Lewis before people knew who Derek Lewis was, and now he's they made gifts of him because he's hilarious. But a huge guy out of Houston, big old heavyweight guy fighting for the heavyweight championship in, I think, a week or two. But we met him as an amateur and got to meet him in person. That guy's hilarious. I mean, some roundabout way you can get him on the show, it'd be amazing. He's a funny ass guy.
All I need is for somebody who knows him to be like, bro, go do this show, and then him want to go do the show. Be like, the interview's fucking great. Do it. That's how it works.